Hi, my name is Bowen Moreno. I'm a LA-based cinematographer and photographer. I've shot bands from Laney, Hippocampus, Half Alive, and many others with a very small portfolio. Today, I'm going to teach you how to shoot these big name artists and build your portfolio completely from scratch. If your goal is to make money, concert photography is sadly probably not for you. However, down the line, if your dream is to be a tour photographer or a photographer that works for the band, this might be a good pathway to start. There are three main ways to get into a concert with a photo pass. The first way to shoot a concert is to be a contributing member through a media outlet. The second way is to shoot directly for the band, and the third way is to shoot with a promoter. Shooting as a contributing member for a media outlet is not as difficult as it sounds. There are plenty of online blogs and publications that you can submit to and say, hey, I'm a photographer. The media outlet's actually going to be able to provide you with that credibility to go in and shoot the show. Most of the time, the people that are granting you access to these concerts are not necessarily concerned with individual photographers, but they care much more about the publication that's behind it. This is where your portfolio is going to come into play. I talked earlier about checking out Facebook events and local concerts. You're going to want to go to those shows and, build up maybe 1 to 2 shows. I actually didn't mention the Facebook events yet, so I'm going to go over that real quick. To get your portfolio started, you will need to check out local events. So the first way to do this is the events page on Facebook. You can look for smaller bar events or smaller club events or maybe some music in the park, something like that. With shows like that, typically you can just show up with your camera, no questions asked, but just make sure to look in the fine print and the details on the website to make sure that you can show up with your camera. The next way you could do this, I've heard you can look at university calendars and see if there are any concerts coming up. If you're a college student, this is a good way to go to shows. A lot of them are free with the smaller coffee shop events, or sometimes even bigger artists come through town as well. So try to get plugged in with your university. A lot of these publications are pretty easy to shoot for, so it just depends where you reach out. One of the ways that I have found some of these publications is to check out hashtags on Instagram. Just go through music photography, band photography, live concert photography. Check out all these hashtags and then do some sleuthing to figure out, okay, who is the account behind this? Do they have a website? And most of the time, an Instagram account isn't just gonna cut it as a viable publication. You're also going to have to make sure that they have a strong website. Check out the sample email so you kind of know how you want to present yourself, and that should be a good ticket in. Once they allow you to be a contributing member, the next thing you need to do is to chase down those concerts that you want to shoot. So the best way that I've found to do this is to go to the band that you want to shoot, check out their Facebook page, go to the About tab, and look if there is an email there. Sometimes you'll find a management email or you'll find a PR email. I would copy both of these people on the email that you're about to send, and I would word it similarly to something that I have on screen now. So if the band doesn't have a Facebook page or an About page, which I think is going to become more likely, as Facebook kind of phases out, although I do still see it being used a lot, you probably want to find any official links for the band that you can. If they're an opener, they likely have a Bandcamp page or a website that's getting less traffic, and sometimes on those pages I'll find PR and management there. So don't give up hope. If you can't find it on Facebook, there's going to be more chances. Now, a tip here that most people will not tell you is don't go for the headliner band. Because a lot of the times, if you shoot the opener band, you're going to be able to shoot the rest of the show. It's a lot more likely that you're going to be able to shoot a band with 2,000 followers as a new up-and-coming photographer than someone with, tens of thousands. And I mean, there's a lot of publications, it's pretty oversaturated, so just because you are shooting for whatever website or blog doesn't mean you're just going to get in that easily. So I try to ensure that success by going straight for the opener. So this might be confusing at first. Every show is different. Every show is going to have different rules. But like I said, typically if I go in and I shoot the opener, they're going to allow me to shoot whatever the venue decides the rules are. So most likely you'll be able to shoot the first 3 songs in the pit. And the pit is the front section with the barricade that's in front of the entire audience. After you shoot those first 3 songs, they'll probably say, okay, you can shoot from the back of house. And once that's over, you'll notice quite often that you can just head right back up for the next band and the band after that for the first 3 songs of each set. There's no one-size-fits-all way to do this, but typically, in my experience, shooting the opener has led to me being able to shoot some pretty killer headliners. So the second way to shoot a concert is to shoot directly for the band. This way has no real method to it. Typically, this is gonna happen if you already know a band, if you have friends that are in a band, or if they're connected to other people. I've had some experiences in the past where, you know, hanging out before a show has led me to have a photo session with the musician, just kind of getting to know them, and you might meet people from their camp, and, you know, it's just networking at that point. But if you do kind of have some in, it definitely helps. I would say you can try cold emailing, you can try cold DMing people and just saying, hey, my name is whatever. I think this way really stands out if you are just a killer photographer and your Instagram feed is, you know, really snappy. If it's something that people really connect with, this way really is just dependent on how good you are. I don't think there's any, I mean, of course, networking helps, but if you don't know someone in the band, the first thing that they're gonna do, if they even do look at your DM, which is very unlikely, is they're gonna look at the top, you know, 10 photos in your feed and see if it connects with their style. If it doesn't, sadly, the band's probably not gonna pay attention to it, especially the bigger ones. I would say this method has worked for me with smaller bands, and it's actually quite a good way to connect and kind of get to know these people and, you know, be able to shoot them again in the future when they come through town. This method specifically has helped me shoot one band, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times when they're in town. These bands are typically, you know, reaching out to you after the second or third time because they know you as a photographer, they want to work with you, and at that point, this is kind of when you're reaching that territory where, okay, maybe it's likely that I'll get hired as a tour photographer. The last method we're going to talk about is shooting directly for a promoter. The promoter might be Live Nation, it might be a smaller local promoter, but with these people, the process is always different. I would say with Live Nation or a bigger one, it's likely that you're going to need some connection already. So actually in this case, you wouldn't be shooting for a publication, you would be reaching out to the promoter, hey, my name is, you know, whoever, here's my Instagram, here's my work, and I want to be able to shoot this concert. So I'll give an example of when I worked for a promoter in Phoenix, Arizona. It's called Psycho Steve. Here's a link. Shout out if you are in Phoenix. For their method, all you have to do is email them, tell them you're a photographer, show them your work, and what they'll do is they'll tell you to request the shows that you want to shoot, and you'll be able to shoot directly for the promoter. So you'll be on a list of shows, sometimes you'll get a +1, and it's as simple as just kind of being in with the promoter and being in their loop. I would say with the promoter method, it's usually easier to do this with smaller ones, so take a look at the concerts on your calendar and see if right before the name of the artist it says presented by. So in this case it would say presented by Psycho Steve at the Van Buren. And if it said that, then that would trigger me to say, oh, okay, I need to email Steve or the email list here and say, hey, can I request to shoot this show? And usually it's a first come, first serve thing. So that's how you'd be able to do it there. Okay, so you've gotten into the concert, you're able to shoot it, and you come back home, now what do? So what you typically have to do, especially if you're working with the media outlet, although I think it's this way all across the board, no matter what method you choose, you're likely going to need to deliver the photos within 24 hours. So what this can mean is you're gonna go home, it's 11 or 12, but it's the grind. You have to get on your computer, edit those photos, you might be up that night, but it's worth it. At least we tell ourselves that. And you are going to send an email looping in the publication that you shot for or whatever they requested. I think for this it's typically different just depending on, you know, who you're shooting for, but they're going to ask you for a link to the photos. You're gonna send it, and then I would follow up with everyone you can. You know, follow up with the band's PR if you can, follow up with the publication, say, hey, thanks so much for letting me shoot this show. Here's the link, here's my review if you did a review. And, you know, sometimes you might get in their ear doing that, so I would just suggest always follow up, be friendly, kind of be someone that they would want to work with in the future, because that might be your ticket to eventually maybe become a tour photographer. So after you have delivered the work, you're finally resting up, you're excited, but it doesn't end there. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is share your work, and share as much of it as you can, and tag as many people as you can when you do this, because I've found that sometimes there's a snowball effect when I shoot shows. There's been periods where I've shot a month or two, just week after week, because people start to see that I'm doing it a lot. And I think this is the case with kind of any pathway in film or photography. People see you're working, they want you to keep working, they want to see more of it. So just make sure that, you know, put a post up on your Instagram at the very least, or if you have a blog, do that, and just send it around. Tag people, leave hashtags, and put it on your story. When it comes to concerts, be respectful, don't be entitled, and just be someone that people like to be around. Don't get in front of the photographers in front of you, block someone from getting a shot. You know, sometimes they might do the same to you, but I think it's kind of it's a really cool environment if you respect the photographers around you. Don't see them as a threat, but see them as people that you might work with in the future. And I think that's really gonna lead to a lot of success in this field. If this video helped you shoot a concert, send me a DM on Instagram. I would love to see what you shot, and I'll see you next time.